For years, I've delved deep into the Force, and what I've discovered about its corrupting influence goes beyond anything seen in the films or shows. This isn't about red lightsabers and anger. It's about the whispered temptations, the unseen cracks, and the truly unsettling ways the Force can break a person, forever altering their destiny. I didn't find this truth in the grand halls of the Jedi Temple or the shadowy chambers of Sith Lords. I found it in the dirt-floored huts of Outer Rim farmers, in the trembling hands of apprentice Jedi too afraid to fail, in the quiet choices that no one else notices, choices that start as tiny ripples, then swell into tsunamis that drown a person's soul. The Force doesn't corrupt with a roar, it corrupts with a whisper, just this once. No one will know. It's for the greater good. Let me tell you about Kira, a farmer's wife from Tatooine's Jundland wastes. She wasn't a Jedi, wasn't a Sith. She was just a woman who loved her family and hated watching her crops wither under twin suns. Kira didn't even know she was Force-sensitive until the drought of 21 BBY. Her wheat was dying, her children were hungry, and the local moisture farmer had raised his prices so high she couldn't afford a drop. One night, as she knelt in her field, tears mixing with the dry dirt, she felt something, a hum in her bones, a pull in her chest. Without thinking, she whispered, "Please, let the rain come." And it did. Not a downpour, but a soft drizzle, just enough to save her wheat. Kira thought it was a miracle. She didn't know it was the Force. The next temptation came months later. A pack of womp rats had invaded her granary, chewing through her stored grain. She tried traps, tried poisons, nothing worked. Desperate, she closed her eyes and thought of the rats fleeing. When she opened them, the granary was empty. The rats were huddled in a field a mile away, too terrified to move. Kira felt a thrill, not of fear, but of control. For the first time in her life, she wasn't at the mercy of Tatooine's harshness. She could fix things. That's when the whisper started. Why stop at rats? Why let the moisture farmer bully you? So she didn't. She didn't hurt him, not directly. She just made him feel tired, so tired he forgot to collect his payments. She made his moisture vaporators sputter, so he had no extra water to sell. Soon he left town, and Kira's family thrived. But the cost was invisible. She started sleeping poorly, dreaming of rats with her face. She stopped smiling at her neighbors because she'd caught herself thinking of making them cooperate if they complained about her luck. The Force wasn't just a tool anymore. It was a habit, and habits, even small ones, change who you are. Kira's story isn't an exception. It's the rule. The Force's corruption doesn't start with Force lightning or lightsaber duels. It starts with the belief that you know better, that your needs, your fears, your desires are more important than the cost. I saw it in Talon, a Jedi apprentice of the Temple on Coruscant. Talon was good, but not great. He struggled with Form 3 lightsaber combat, couldn't meditate for more than 10 minutes without fidgeting, and feared he'd never be assigned a master. One day, during a training exercise, he froze. A training droid lunged at him, and he couldn't move. His instructor, Master Vrook, shook his head. "Focus, Talon. The Force is with you, if you let it." Talon heard the whisper, then just nudged the droid. "No one will see." He did. The droid stumbled, and Talon sliced it in half. Master Vrook nodded, impressed. Talon felt a rush, pride, relief, power. It escalated from there. He nudged his fellow apprentices' lightsabers during sparring, making them drop their weapons. He helped himself to extra food in the temple mess hall, using the Force to make the server look away. When he was assigned to a mission to investigate pirate activity on Ryloth, he made a pirate confess. Not by asking questions, but by forcing the truth out with the Force, his mind pressing against the pirates like a fist. The pirate screamed, and Talon felt sick, but also satisfied. He'd gotten the information. The mission was a success. Master Vrook never found out, but Talon did. He started avoiding the temple gardens, where he used to meditate. He stopped talking to his friends. He'd look in a mirror and see someone he didn't recognize, someone hard, someone hungry. The Force wasn't guiding him anymore. He was using it to hide his weaknesses, to make up for his fears. And that's when the cracks started to show, in his smile, in his sleep, in the way he flinched when anyone mentioned restraint. The Jedi Order talks a lot about the dark side, as if it's a place, a realm you step into, red lightsaber in hand. But it's not. It's a choice. 1,000 small choices, each one moving you a little further from the light, until you can't find your way back. Kira and Talon didn't set out to be evil. They set out to survive, to be better, to not feel powerless. But the Force doesn't care about your intentions. It cares about your actions. Every time you use it to control someone, to hide a mistake, to get what you want without earning it, you chip away at something inside you. Empathy, humility, the ability to see yourself clearly. I saw the end of Kira's story 2 years after that first reign. A sandstorm hit Tatooine, one of the worst in decades. Kira's wheat was in danger again. She ran to her field, hands outstretched, screaming at the storm to stop. The Force responded, but not how she wanted. The storm didn't stop. It twisted, swirling around her, picking up rocks and debris. Her husband yelled at her to run, but she couldn't. She was locked in, the Force surging through her, wild and unmanageable. When the storm passed, her field was gone, flattened, buried under sand. Her children were safe, but Kira was different. She didn't speak for weeks. When she did, her voice was hollow. "I thought I was controlling it," she said, "but it was controlling me." She never used the Force again, but she never smiled again either. The part of her that could feel joy, that could trust, was gone, eaten away by the whisper. Talon's end was darker. He was sent on a mission to protect a group of refugees fleeing separatist droids on Felucia. The droids ambushed them, and Talon froze again. Not out of fear, but out of greed. He could save the refugees, or he could take the droids' weapons and sell them, enough to buy a ship and leave the Jedi Order, to never have to prove himself again. The whisper was loud then. "The refugees will die anyway. Save yourself." He listened. He ran. The refugees were killed. When he returned to Coruscant, he lied, said the droids were too strong, said he'd barely escaped. Master Vrook looked at him, and Talon knew he'd been caught. "The Force is not a weapon to be wielded for gain," Vrook said. "It is a gift to be used for others." Talon left the temple that night. He became a mercenary, using the Force to kill for money. Last I heard, he was killed on Nar Shaddaa, shot by a bounty hunter he double-crossed. His lightsaber was found in a gutter, its blue blade dimmed, as if the Force itself had abandoned it. This is the truth no one talks about. The Force's corruption isn't about anger. It's about apathy. It's about forgetting that your choices affect others, that power without compassion is just cruelty, that the greater good you're fighting for is often just an excuse to do what you want. The Sith talk about freedom through power, but they're lying. Power doesn't set you free. It traps you. In your fears, in your greed, in the person you're becoming. The Jedi talk about detachment, but they're wrong too. You can't detach from your emotions without detaching from your humanity. The real danger isn't the dark side. It's the space between, the place where you tell yourself, just this once is okay, where you let the whisper become a shout, where you forget who you are. For years I thought the Force was a mystery, a cosmic power that chose sides, that favored the Jedi, that punished the Sith. But it's not. The Force is a mirror. It reflects who you are. The good, the bad, the ugly. It doesn't corrupt you, it reveals you. Kira and Talon weren't corrupted by the Force. They were corrupted by themselves, by their fear of failure, their desire for control, their refusal to accept that some things are out of our hands. This is the revelation I've carried with me through every Outer Rim village, every Jedi Temple ruin, every conversation with beings who felt the whisper, the greatest danger in the galaxy isn't a Sith Lord with a red lightsaber. It's the quiet voice in your head that says, "I can get away with this." It's the choice to take the easy path, to prioritize your needs over others, to let your fears drive your actions. The Force doesn't break you. You break yourself, one small choice at a time. And that's the unsettling truth. The Force is everywhere, in everyone. It's in the farmer who wants to save her crops, the apprentice who wants to prove himself, the person reading this who's ever thought just once. We all feel the whisper. The question isn't whether you'll hear it. It's whether you'll listen. Because once you do, once you let that first small choice slide, you start down a path you might never be able to leave. Your destiny doesn't change in a flash of lightning or a lightsaber duel. It changes in the quiet moments when no one is watching and you have to decide who do you want to be. That's the Force's greatest lesson. It's not about good versus evil. It's about you versus yourself. And that's a battle no one can fight for you. The quiet, insidious corruption of beings like Kira and Talon reveals a truth the galaxy often ignores. The dark side we see, the red lightsabers, the Force lightning, the screaming rages, is just the visible peak of a much larger threat. For most, the dark side is defined by a simple, brutal chain, one etched into Star Wars lore by Yoda himself in The Empire Strikes Back. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. This is the conventional dark side, the one we recognize instantly, the one that turns heroes into villains in a flash of violence. It is unapologetic, visceral, and impossible to mistake. And no two examples embody it more clearly than Anakin Skywalker and Darth Sidious. Their descents into obvious evil serving as the galaxy's most cautionary tales, even as they overshadow the darker, quieter dangers lurking beneath. Anakin's fall is the textbook case of this conventional lure. It begins not with cruelty, but with fear. A father's fear of losing his child, a husband's fear of losing his wife. His nightmares of Padme dying in childbirth are not acts of evil, they are acts of love, twisted by the dark side's promise of control. Palpatine, playing the role of mentor, feeds that fear like a flame. "You have power, Anakin." More than any Jedi, he whispers in Revenge of the Sith, his voice dripping with false warmth. But the Jedi hold you back. The dark side can give you what you need to save her. Anakin resists at first, but the fear gnaws at him, turning to anger. Anger at the Jedi Council for doubting his loyalty. Anger at Obi-Wan for hiding the truth about the dark side. Anger at the universe for daring to take Padme away. That anger erupts on Mustafar, where he slaughters the separatist leaders, men, women, even droids, without mercy. His lightsaber cuts through them as he screams, "I hate you!" A raw, unfiltered expression of the dark side's hold. Later, on Mustafar's volcanic shores, he lets that hate fuel his duel with Obi-Wan, leaping at his former master with a fury that blinds him to his own vulnerability. "You turned her against me," he bellows, his voice breaking, before Obi-Wan slices off his limbs, leaving him to burn in the lava. This is the conventional dark side, loud, violent, and impossible to ignore. Anakin doesn't just fall, he crashes, his descent marked by blood and fire. Palpatine, meanwhile, is the embodiment of this obvious evil. He does not hide his lust for power, he weaponizes it, turning every smile, every gesture into a tool of manipulation. For years he plays the kindly Chancellor of the Republic, but behind closed doors he revels in the dark side's cruelty. He uses Force lightning to torture Mace Windu, cackling as the Jedi Master writhes in pain, his eyes glowing with sadistic pleasure. He declares the Republic dead, and the Empire born in a speech to the Senate, his voice rising with arrogance as he announces, "The Galactic Empire will reign for 1,000 generations." He doesn't pretend to be good, he frames his evil as strength, telling Anakin, anger, fear, aggression, these are the emotions of life. They are your nature. Even his appearance betrays him. After his duel with Windu, his face is scarred, his skin pale, his eyes yellow, a physical manifestation of the darkness he has embraced. Palpatine's dark side is a performance, a spectacle designed to intimidate and control. It is the kind of evil the Jedi trained to fight. A clear enemy, a red lightsaber, a villain who wears his malice on his sleeve. We see him and know instantly, this is darkness. But here's the danger in fixating on Anakin's screams and Palpatine's lightning. They make us believe the dark side is always obvious, that we'll see it coming, that we'll never fall for it. They make us overlook the fact that for every Anakin Skywalker who burns on Mustafar, there are 100 Kiras who just want to save their crops, 100 Talons who just want to prove they belong. The conventional dark side is the tip of the iceberg. What lies beneath is far more unsettling, the dark side that doesn't roar, but whispers, that doesn't demand blood, but asks for just a little favor, that doesn't turn you into a cyborg Sith Lord overnight, but chips away at your humanity, one small choice at a time. Qi'ra didn't start with anger or hate. She started with a prayer for rain. Talon didn't start with violence. He started with a nudge to a training droid. Neither of them saw themselves as evil. They saw themselves as survivors, as people doing what they had to do. That's the dark side's greatest trick. It doesn't make you choose evil. It makes you choose convenience. It makes you choose fear. It makes you choose yourself over others, and then tells you it's okay, because you're just trying to get by, because no one will know, because it's for the greater good. These are the lures we don't see coming, the ones that turn ordinary people into something they barely recognize, long before they ever pick up a red lightsaber. The Jedi spend centuries training to fight the conventional dark side, to block Force lightning, to duel Sith Lords, to resist anger. But they forget to train for the quiet stuff, the prayer that becomes a demand, the nudge that becomes a push, the choice that becomes a habit. They forget that the dark side doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sounds like a voice in your head saying, just this once. Sometimes it looks like a farmer saving her crops, an apprentice wanting to impress his master, a person just trying to survive. Anakin and Palpatine are important. They show us the end of the path. But if we only focus on them, we miss the start, the small, quiet moments where the dark side first takes hold. And that's how it wins, not with a roar, but with a whisper. Not with lightning, but with a choice. Not with hate, but with fear. The conventional dark side is terrifying. But the subtle one, it's invisible until it's too late. The subtle dark side of quiet choices of Qi'ra's reign and Talon's nudge finds its most insidious form in a desire that feels almost noble, the urge to control the Force, not for power's sake, but to fix the galaxy's pain. We like to think control is a virtue, discipline, focus, the ability to shape chaos into order. But the Force does not bend to control. It flows like a river, and when you try to dam it, to redirect it to your will, you do not master it, you corrupt it. This is the seduction of Force over manipulation, the belief that you can use the Force to override nature, to erase suffering, to play God all in the name of good. And it is this belief that turns healers into tyrants, idealists into monsters, and the Force from a gift into a weapon. Consider midi-chlorian manipulation, the dark art of altering the microscopic beings that connect all life to the Force. The Jedi teach that midi-chlorians are a bridge to the Force, not a tool to be wielded, but the Sith, and even some well-meaning Force sensitives, see them as a key to create life, to cheat death, to rewrite the rules of existence. Darth Plagueis, Palpatine's master, dedicated his life to this craft. Palpatine himself describes Plagueis in Revenge of the Sith with a mix of awe and greed. He could influence the midi-chlorians to create life, to save those he loved from death. Plagueis did not start as a villain. He began as a healer, devastated by the loss of his family to a plague. He studied midi-chlorians to find a cure, to prevent others from feeling his pain. But the more he manipulated them, the more he craved control. He did not stop at curing. He tried to create life, to build beings who would be perfect vessels for the Force. He did not stop at saving. He tried to cheat death, to make himself immortal. In the end, his obsession destroyed him. Palpatine, fearing Plagueis' power, killed him in his sleep. Plagueis' sin was not malice. It was arrogance. The belief that his good intentions justified bending the Force to his will. He saw the Force not as a partner, but as a resource to be exploited. And that is the first step to corruption, when you stop listening to the Force and start demanding it listen to you. This temptation extends to even the most selfless acts, like Force healing. The Jedi use healing to mend wounds, to soothe pain, to preserve life. But when healing becomes manipulation, when you use the Force to override a being's natural will, to fix their pain without their consent, it crosses into darkness. I saw this in Lyra, a Jedi healer stationed on Felucia during the Clone Wars. Lyra was gifted. She could mend broken bones with a touch, calm a panic attack with a thought, even slow the progress of fatal illnesses. But Felucia was a war zone, and the injuries were endless. Clone troopers with missing limbs, Twi'lek refugees with blaster wounds, children left orphaned and traumatized. Lyra grew desperate. She began pushing her healing further, using the Force to regrow a clone's lost hand, to erase a child's memories of war, to force a dying soldier's body to keep fighting. Her patients got better, but they changed. The clone with the new hand felt it as a foreign thing, cold and unresponsive. The child forgot her trauma, but also forgot her family. The soldier fought on, but his body collapsed under the strain, his organs failing from the Force's unnatural push. Lyra did not see the harm. She saw only success. Lives saved, pain ended. But the Force saw differently. It grew quieter around her, the hum she once felt fading into a distant buzz. She began to feel empty, as if the Force was withdrawing from her. When Master Yoda visited Felucia and confronted her, she defended herself. "I'm helping them." "Isn't that what the Jedi do?" Yoda shook his head. "Healing is to guide, not to control," he said. "You take their pain and their choice. That is not kindness, that is theft." Lyra did not return to the temple. She stayed on Felucia, her healing growing more desperate, more violent, until she could no longer distinguish between mending and breaking. The Force had not abandoned her. She had abandoned it, trading balance for control. The root of this corruption is detachment from the Force's natural flow, from the humanity of those you help, from the understanding that power without humility is ruin. Force-sensitive individuals who chase control stop seeing the Force as a part of life. They see it as a tool to dominate life. They stop trusting in the natural order, in the idea that pain and loss are part of what makes life meaningful. Instead, they chase a fantasy, a galaxy where they hold the reins, where no one suffers, where nothing is out of their control. But this fantasy is a prison. Darth Vader spent decades in a suit, his body broken by his desire to control the Force and his fate. He could choke a man from across a room, but he could not save Padme. He could destroy planets, but he could not mend the hole in his chest. He was a prisoner of his own control, trapped in a cycle of anger and regret, because he could not accept that some things are beyond even the Force's power. This is the truth of Force over manipulation. It is not about evil. It is about fear. Fear of powerlessness, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. You start by wanting to heal, to create, to protect. But the more you control the Force, the more you fear losing that control. The more you fear, the more you cling. The more you cling, the more you break yourself, the Force, the very lives you wanted to save. The Jedi teach that the Force is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. It is not something to be controlled. It is something to be part of. When you try to override that bond, when you use the Force to manipulate midi-chlorians, to erase pain, to play God, you do not strengthen the bond. You sever it. You become a stranger to the Force and to yourself. The seduction of control is the darkest of the subtle dark sides. It wears the face of kindness. It speaks the language of hope, but it is a lie. You cannot control the Force. You can only flow with it. And when you forget that, when you choose control over balance, you do not become a master of the Force. You become its prisoner.